Hey, what's up guys, it's METAGAMESGX here, and we are going to be looking at my master branded deck list that I ended up getting a 90% win rate with on ranked yesterday and got it in one day. Went from the bottom of diamond to master within a day at, like I said, a 90% win rate. So if you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to leave a like down below. If this video gets to 150 likes, we will be uploading some WCQ gameplay. Good luck everybody tomorrow in that, and make sure you are subscribed because we are on the road to 20,000 subscribers, of course. And click the join button, join my Discord if you want to get into the members only classroom, as you get with the rest of your perks being a channel member. And also comment down below what your favorite part of the video was between the gameplay and the combos and the text. Let's get right into it. All right, so we are of course running 60 card branded because I do think that 60 card branded is the best shot that you have for entering into this Master Duel format. Of course, Branded Fusion went to 2, so that was a huge buff to branded, and 60 card has just been the way in Master Duel for a while now because being best of 1, you need to have all your options, and 60 card really lends yourself to being able to run some of these grind game bricks like Branded Sword that actually really help in a best of 1 scenario. And then also, you know, these builds really letting, you know, deck building let loose with Predaplant, Verte, Anaconda being legal so that you can actually do some link plays to get to your Branded Fusion, which makes Branded a top tier, if not best deck of the format here in Master Duel for the WCQ. So let's go into the deck. We'll go card by card and talk about my choices, and then like I said, we will get into some combos and then also show you guys gameplay from the 90% win rate run from yesterday. All right, so we're running one Despia Tragedy, super standard. We are running the Foolish Burial, so we do want to have that. It's also a great grind game piece off of the Branded Fusion, even if you don't run the Foolish, so I do think I'd run it either way. Also, I do run the 3 Allure, so I think that's really standard. We are running 2 Max C, of course, because this is the best card in Master Duel. If you guys have been watching my streams, I've been very much getting tilted off of Max C lately, but, you know, we gotta get better at the game. But, you know, that being with that being said, it's still the best hand trap in the game, and you basically get a free win going second and going first drawing this card. So I think it 100% warrants running it if it does not get ashed or called by. And even then, as you guys will see with some of the gameplay, even if you're, you know, Maxi gets Ash Blossomed, it's totally fine because that means that you will have other cards to play with and that will not get Ash Blossomed or called by. It's not High Spirits Bridge, but it doesn't matter. And then we're running 3 Fall in the Valbaz. Of course, we do have some of the alt arts, but I do want to use my prismatic Fall in the Valbazes. I do see some builds running 2 Albaz. I just prefer to run 3, even though we are running the Branded Sword. I think having Albaz hard drawing it's actually pretty good this format because of all the Blue Eyes, Centurion somewhat, and then just Bestial decks, and then also branded matchups. So just having the hard drawn Fallen of Albaz is super good this format, and I don't want to lose random games to only having 2 copies. Then we are running 3 Aluber with the new alt art. Of course, I do love this card. I think it is one of the best cards in branded, still 1 card starter, and with how Master Duel is played, you can really just start your turn with Aluber bait and Imperm and then just start doing other things, unlike in TCG, as we showed off in a gameplay earlier in the week, that branded in Master Duel needs to be played differently than TCG. If you guys didn't see that already, I'll leave a link down below so you can watch that after this video. And it's still the best 1 card star of your deck. We are not running the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord because there is so much super poly in the game, but that still doesn't mean that your 1 card Luber doesn't do a ton. You are just playing a more interactive version of branded where you really have to know where to hit your opponent in their choke points. And I think this kind of version of branded actually works better than a version like Light and Darkness Dragon Lord or a lock-oriented version where you can really just lose to some of the most common non-engines, such as like Called by the Grave and Super Poly right now. So I think Aluber's still great. At 3, we are running the 2 Mercurier specifically because we are running 3 Allure Darkness. I think Allure is just way too good to run right now because I want to see more board breakers than anything. As you guys see, I'm not running Fubulos for the first time in a branded build since it came out on Master Duel, because I think between all the stun decks, there's tons of Kashtira, and then mainly is the Blue Eyes deck that really does not care about Mulcharmy. They basically hand loop you to a Mulcharmy, so overall I don't want to see Mulcharmy. I'd much rather just see a board breaker, and Allure of Darkness gets me there, right? We have double Branded Fusion. Now I have the possibility of drawing Branded Fusion even more if I don't hard open it, and I've been hard opening it a ton now because of 2 branded fusion. It really does make the difference. And we are running the 2 Mercourier to facilitate that. We are running the 1 branded sword, so there could be an argument for running 1 Mercourier, but I do have a lot of combo lines and gameplays where I end up banishing one, you know, can't get the branded sword and then search the other, so it's like totally fine, honestly, to run 2, and it's nice for the grind game. It's nice to hard open. A lot of people don't see that coming a lot of the time. And then also if you establish like a Albaz fusion with like Brandon White or Brandon Red before you go Brandon Fusion, you can always save the Mercourier, and then when they go Ash Blossom, use the Mercourier on the Ash Blossom, since you already have an Albaz fusion. With the grass builds, that happens actually more often than you'd think, and it's kind of like the old branded sword lines we'd have back in the day, which are getting, you know, I'll leave that combo video down below as well, where you can really play around Ash because of branded sword. So I think branded sword is just integral right now because of the grind game. Once again, you know, you are running the allure, so you're going to be constantly banishing resources, and in this 60 card best of 1 kind of scenario, you really do want to be able to have the most grind game that you possibly can, because you are going to be getting hand trapped all the time. You are going to be getting called by all the time. You're going to be getting Bistieled all the time, max seed all the time. So you need to be able to play on your opponent's turn essentially and make your resources really pay for themselves. And I think branded sword is also a great like discard going second, because if you go allure, you can get back your discard and you basically just paid for the advantage right there. And you know, branded's a very card starved kind of deck a lot of the times. Going second, especially in a board breaker build like this with 3 super poly, 3 droplet, no FUA. So a lot of the time I'm going to be on 6 card hands breaking boards, but you know, you can do that I think very easily with super poly. And if you just draw allure, you're basically off to the races, and it can make you it can give you a chance going second. So that's why we are running it. And then also consistency going first, because you're still running the 60 card build. So I think you know, you need the consistency. That's why we're going to talk about some of these choices, because I originally wasn't running 3 branded opening and 1 deployment, because I want this build to channel more into Verte Anaconda. I want to do the least amount of locking myself into fusion summoning as possible before I resolve branded fusion, because as we showed off on another gameplay this week, once again, link down below, you know, we can actually play around Ash Blossom and like basically 4 or 5 hand traps with Verte Anaconda. So a lot of the times, the best way to play branded is to bait out as much interruptions from your opponent as possible, and then make them use Ash already before you branded fusion, and then you go Verte Anaconda, or make the Ash Blossom dead in their hand because you can't Ash Verte. You can impermanent, obviously, but you know, I think in this kind of format, you are much more likely to see certain other things. And we are choosing to run the 3 branded opening and the 1 deployment for the consistency, because I still like deployment into blue eyes, and I was in diamond elo, so there was enough blue eyes to justify it in my opinion. Maybe if I get to master 1, I might drop this card, but I think having a search off of Alba Lenatus once your 2 branded fusion have been exhausted, which once again, 2 branded fusion gives Alba Lenatus even better crackback, because on turn 3, if you aren't going against a dragon deck, you can always just search the branded fusion without sending your second Albion, which is always great. Once again, keeping that grind game in mind. You don't want to use your resources too much, especially when you're running 1 Mirror Jade, which I do think the branded sword helps a lot. Even though we aren't running the ad lib, we can always spin back the Mirror Jade with the branded sword. It just sucks against Unicorn, but Kashtira Unicorn, but like we can kind of deal with it with our board breakers a lot of the time. It's one of those things, if they open broken, they kind of just get it. If not, we can usually win it even through a Mirror Jade banish. But yeah, so that was the long explanation on like kind of like the mechanics of the deck and what we're trying to do. I do think branded opening helps with the consistency, but we are still trying to go second as best as possible with all these board breakers and Bistiels into the Fiendsmith deck. Once again, I think if you see a super poly or a droplet, you are beating every meta deck. I think branded has an incredible matchup right now into Snake Eye, into basically everything that's just like not Mermail and Stun. And even then, Stun is pretty fine because I am running the 1 Feather Duster. We were running Heavy Storm at various points of this build, so you can definitely run this. I will say I did take it out for an evenly, and then I ended up taking that out because that wasn't really coming up. But I definitely think you can run a Heavy Storm in here, and I have been there. I just haven't been seeing enough stun on that run yesterday, so I kind of just took it out. It wasn't doing a whole lot, but I could definitely see myself doing that for the WCQ, but that's besides the point. Then we do have the Golden Sword Soul and Kit. Kit you have to run, in my opinion, even though you aren't running Fuwalos. I still think it's really integral for the grind game since you aren't running the double Retribution. I'd just rather have a kit than a Retribution. A second Retribution because this is a starter. I know a lot of people are running double Ret instead of maybe even kit. I still think that kit's better. I'm running the Golden Sword Soul. I was never sold on this card until I started grinding with it recently. I think it's great in Master Duel because of that best of one scenario, because a lot of the time you're going to get hand trapped. You might end on only like Wignall with a Albaz in graveyard. If you have Sword Soul in rotations, you know, you're basically off to the races a lot of the time. And into Max C, the Golden Sword Soul is incredible to send off with Albaz, make Sanctifier. And then if you have like Cartesia in rotation, you're just off to the races. This card just makes you, you know, you can make Stepelia Boral Jade boards under Max C basically on your opponent's turn with this card. And it's also just, once again, great for the grind game because anytime a card's banished face up, so whether it's your Brand Sword activating Retribution or Mirror Jade or Albion, you're going to be triggering this at whatever point, and you're only running one Quem, but it doesn't matter because Golden Sword Soul can just keep recycling that one Quem, which is super huge. It also adds to some combo lines if you need to get to Quem going first for Branded Fusion. It doesn't come up too often, but it does. I'm running the 2 Cartesia because I just like having 2 Cartesia. I think 1 is a bit dubious. I've seen a lot of builds only run 1. But I want to see this card a lot of the time. Obviously, it's not great into Max C. I think a lot of the time I've been learning to just, if I have Cartesia and a Luber access, like a lot of the time I'm just going to go normal Luber, bait the Imperm, and then go summon Cartesia to not play into Max C because I'd rather play into Imperm than Max C because I can still go Verte in this format and get to Branded Fusion as long as I have 2 bodies, so that's a huge thing. And Golden Sword Soul kind of helps with that in the grind game as well because you can always go into Verte on turn 3 or 4 or 5, send your second Branded Fusion, and just, you know, play the grind game with links at that point, which I really do like. So yeah, Golden Sword Soul, I'm a huge fan of overall, and I highly recommend it. It really, when you're, because in Master Duel, you're gonna get hand trapped a lot, like I said, so just like making the most out of your cards is great. It's also just like one of the best sends besides Lubellion. If you already have Lubellion or Cart in rotation, it's like the obvious send, and then it's always gonna come up in the grind game, so it's super, super good. Like Cartesia access is always great. I'm running an extra deck that's really primed around what my deck is trying to accomplish. I'm trying to play through infinite hand traps and play on my opponent's turn as best as possible. And I think that the extra deck I made is the best for that. Honestly, between the Stepelia, the Boral load, and then I do have the Guardian Chimera and the Chaos Star Source, between that and the Jade that I'm going to be constantly looping in Rinbrum and Sanctifier, I'm going to be able to make even better boards than the Lad board for the most part. I'll show you guys what those boards look like once again in the combos for this video. And this is going to be a long one, so strap in, guys. Leave a like if you haven't already. And then 1 Magnemite, 3 Saronir. There's just so much Fiendsmith still, and I think with the 2 Lubellion, it really mixes well to give your Verte lines a lot of energy, right? Because if you go normal summon a Luber and they imperm it, you could always pitch Lubellion, and then, you know, if they go Valor, you could always go Saronir, of course. That I was on 3 Lubellion, but I've been really, like, just trying to make my going second better in Lubellion. Seeing this sometimes going second is not the best. Obviously, it can get you into Branded Lost, which I do think Branded Lost is, like, one of the best branded cards going second, and I've been debating on upping this to 3. I just actually don't own 2 more copies on Master Duel. So I haven't really been able to hard test it, but in the TCG, I've liked it in the past, going second especially, so I do think 3 Branded Lost might be something to consider, but, you know, Lubellion is there for the Verte lines, and then to get there, of course, still our best send off a Branded Fusion as well, 3 Shrouded for consistency, and then High Spirits and Allure targets, so I think that running this amount of monsters really worked out well for the consistency. And then into the Spells and Traps, 1 Feather Duster. Once again, I ran a Heavy Storm a lot of the time. Don't get me wrong, I really did, so there should be a Heavy Storm probably somewhere in here, like over the branded opening. But, you know, it really is just like whatever you're feeling on that day. And I do think these are great options because going against Labyrinth, going against Blue Eyes, some of your worst matchups, right? If you don't see Albalinatus or an Albaz, you know, or if they pop it, right? This card's just great. They just scoop instantly on this, so I think they're completely worth it to run. And then also Foolish Burial, 2 Gold Sark for the 1 card starters. Really do love these cards. And once again, we can get into grind game, so Gold Sark's even better there. And then 3 Allure. When Malice comes out, I could see this card definitely going to 1, though, so use it while you have it. 3 Allure Darkness for consistency. Sometimes I will get a hand of just Allure and have to say YOLO, but, you know, that's just like the name of the game with Allure. I could be running more monsters, but then my going second starts getting a little bit worse. So I think this still is warrants it. You have so much consistency in your deck and search power, where this card a lot of the time just you can get off to the races. You can go high spirits, get a Mercurier, and still do your thing, or you could go branded opening, right, and get a tragedy and just do that. So a lot of the time this card will still be live, and sometimes it'll just be your Hail Mary that saves you. And I've won games off of Hail Marying with this card before. You don't want to, and I think I built this deck so the consistency is very high for going first and going second. I think removing the Fuelos was the best thing I ever did for this deck, honestly, because Fuelos was really griefing my run between all the stun decks, and running more board breakers that could be good going first or going second was definitely just like such a good benefit of this kind of build. One grass looks greener. I have a gameplay where I only draw grass, and my mills were absolutely insane. Yeah, I do think that grass is like one of the best cards in branded. Sometimes I search this over thrust, but I don't know. It's kind of dangerous searching this over thrust going second if you mill all your Albazes, but that's why we do run the branded in white, and we have like branded and sword, so brand retribution. There's just so many good targets for this card, and the golden sword, soul, and tragedy. So card's just insane. If this card resolves, you basically win the game. One fusion deployment, it is really for the Albalanetus, and then just also for just some slight consistency. It's really bad into Maxi, but if you will write Maxi check, you can always do this. It's decent into Blue Eyes also, just to provide an Albaz on the board, and they have to interact with it. And then one talents for the 3 thrust. I think this card's one of the best board breakers in branded, because a lot of the time you can go thrust, go talents, and then either hand rip their Ash or then just take their Caesar or their Appaloosa. It's very good, and they really can't interact with it. And then one branded white, once again, just great for the grass build. I probably wouldn't run it if I wasn't running a grass build, but it's just so good in a grass build. And then also just sometimes unbrick some hands. If you can't fuse and you've already used your normal summon, you could use this with a Cartesia in hand and still continue your plays. So it's not bad. It's kind of like a poly at the end of the day for your deck. And then 2 branded fusion. Shout out to Konami for bringing us 2 branded fusion, guys. Let's get some W's in the chat, of course. Very happy that 2 branded fusion came back to Master Duel. Now the deck, so many people are running branded now because the deck is so much easier with branded fusion at 2. I think the deck was already very good, and now this just makes it even more consistent. I think hard opening branded fusion, top decking branded fusion, so much more consistent now. And I've done it like 3 times more than I was before. So just like the fact is, if branded fusion goes to 3, I think brand is the best deck. So, for now, I think 2 is just fine for the power level. I'm very happy with this. Just not happy with all the mirror matches, but I have some gameplay of the mirror match and a video on it from yesterday if you guys want to learn the mirror match. So check that out down below and in the rest of this video. 3 thrust. I think that thrust is great in Master Duel because it trivializes Max C, and it's great going second. I think this is kind of a no-brainer in Master Duel. It's arguably better in Master Duel than TCG. I know I have sometimes not ran thrust, and I think one of my last master lists did not run thrust. But this format just feels so good. But there's so many hand traps this format. And also Maxi just get Fulos being slammed everywhere. This card just says, I don't care that you just Fulos me. I don't care that you Maxi'd me. And then going second, once again, you can just search the triple tactics talents. Feather Duster, I searched this off against a lab player and they scooped, right? So this card's just too broken, I think. And then you can search fusion duplication, and 99% of the time you can always get the branded fusion to rotation, right? One branded loss. We already talked about this. Very good. Could run multiples. 3 super poly. Best board breaker, I think. 4 branded. I think it does require an extra deck slot, though. So we are running the Mud Dragon for that plus Stapelia. But I think mostly the branded extra deck is your super poly target. I think Mirror Jade's your best super poly target. But you have things like Lenatus, of course, if you need to. Or Chaos Star Source is great against Blue Eyes, which was one of the best decks. But I think that Mud Dragon generally, covers most of your general matchups, and it also gives it so your opponent can't target your monsters with card effects. So this is great into a opponent's board going second if they have like 5 back row and like 3 of them are imperms, right? You make Mud Dragon call dark, they can't target any of your cards, and all those imperms are dead. So it's like it just really helps for your board breaking with Super Poly, in my opinion, making the Mud Dragon. You have to have more gas for it though to kind of do that play successfully, but like it's definitely there. It didn't come up in my run, I'm not gonna lie though. So, like, I could see myself cutting it, but I think, like, there were games where I did have it cut and I missed it, essentially. So, like, it's just there as a failsafe. I think you have to run if you run Super Poly. If not, just run, like, Dark Ruler, and then you can cut the Mud Dragon, honestly. And I was running Dark Ruler initially, but I just wasn't finding success. I think Super Poly is way more malleable, being a quick play. You can use it for OTKs, dodging Imperm, and stuff like that. It's just way too good. And then 2 Called By. I was back and forth on cutting this card. I mean, I think it's good going first and going second because you don't want to play through Max C, right? Sometimes you can, a lot of the time you can, but I think that Called By is just way too good in Master Duel not to run. But sometimes this can be the bane of my existence going second if I don't need it, or going first and I have no other extenders. So like these cards, like one of these could go for a branded opening. Frankly, like that's kind of where I'm at right now. And then 3 Forbidden Droplet. This card's just so crazy, especially into like Christian and like all these other like basically Snake Eye-ish decks with a bunch of negates. So like this card's just way too good. It's also good going first if you want like set it if you brick or something, or just add to your end board and drawing cards off of stuff. 2 branded opening. Once again, I was at like 3 at various points. Like we can go back and forth with this once again. But this card's just like still a 1.5 1-card star for your whole plays. Yes, you get locked, but I still like the consistency. I also was playing a lot of Tenpai on ladder, so like having branded opening as a 3 of is pretty good for Tenpai because you automatically get it. Also, the Golden Sword Soul is a random Tenpai out. It doesn't come up much, but between like the Golden Sword Soul and that, it really does feel like your Tenpai matchup is pretty good, honestly, all things considered. Because you aren't running the Lad anymore. Before I was just making Lad Mirror Jade that super poly me and then resolve engage 3 times. I have a bit more of an interactive board now. I was also running Blazing Branded King at various points, honestly. I do think this card's very good as well. But it is one of those things where it's still one of those bricks, but it is very good against like things like Called By and Droplet and like Dark Ruler and stuff like that. So it's very good into stun. It's a good discard, but I've overall cut that card, so that's just something to consider. Also, but if you're seeing a lot of Tenpai, I think it's really good against Tenpai. And then 3 High Spirits, just one of your best consistency pieces. And then going second, you can send the Titan Clad to make a Mirror Jade by summoning Albaz in your opponent's end phase if you played through half their board. So good. It also helps you with Verte lines because it can give you the second body. 1 branded in red. You have to run this. I'm also running Guardian Chimera. I was not running this for a bit, but I am glad I added it in over the second Mirror Jade just for a bit better of a branded and red time. Because if I already just have like a lot of my resources done, I think having the Chimera in the pocket is really huge. And you do have the kit, the branded Retribution, and the branded Sword to kind of recycle those constantly and use branded red multiple times if you need to. So it's there for that. And then Brand Sword, we talked about this. Just such a good grind game piece with the brand Retribution. I think that grind is the name of the game, and having the Sword Soul and the branded Sword, I think, really helps with the grind game overall. I've been back and forth on double Retribution, but I think I want to go for the most consistency as possible while having the grind game that I want to. It still has a great grind game, but I'm not going to be bricking on like 5 different traps, so that's what this build's trying to do. 1 fusion dupe. I've actually debated on running 3 of these for all the max C I've been seeing, but it's bad going second, so I think running the thrust is good. And then for the extra deck, we kind of already talked about this as we were going card by card, but Mud Dragon, once again, just for like all the for your best general super poly target, also the imperm, anti-imperm effect is great. 1 Stapelia, it's your best grind games fusion. Honestly, I go into this more than anything but Mirror Jade and I think Chaos Star Source, maybe Sanctifier too, but obviously besides Albion, Lubellion, but this card comes out all the time. It makes Cartesia it makes Golden Sword Soul so insane because Golden Sword Soul will always be able to Cartesia in rotation. And when Cartesian's in rotation with like a Gwignall and Mirror Jade, okay, you Mirror Jade, send Rinbrum with the Albaz in graveyard. That's an interruption right there after you banish. And then you also have the Stapelia to then make off the Cartesia with your dead bodies and put the Gwignall in the graveyard, for instance. And then, so yeah, this card's incredible. I know a lot of people were cutting this for branded for a while, but I think in Master Duel at least, I would never cut this, and it's way too good for the grind game. Like my end boards weren't making sense without Lad when I didn't run Stapelia. I just needed something to always go into, to rotate into. That was a constant, continuous effect. That was a quick effect on either turn, so that I could always provide pressure on my opponent to force him to deal with it, or just basically get swallowed whole by it. Besides Mirror Jade, right? We are running the 1 Mirror Jade, but I think we have Branded Sword to recycle it, and this is just a concession. Master Duel, I can't side 2 or 3 extra deck cards like I sometimes do in TCG, so I think the Brand Sword really does help for the Mirror Jade too. It's really there for that, honestly, but it helps so much more with like Mercurier for free, Albaz for free, and stuff like that. And then also the Boral load, since we are not running the Lad, this is my Lad concession. I think this is a little bit better than Lad because, yeah, I don't make it on top of Mirror Jade. I make it in the grind game after I've already used up Mirror Jade and stuff like that. So it makes it so I just like die to Super Poly a bit less, but it still gives me a good out for 10 pi. And then also, it's just board breaking. It can be great against all the back row decks, and it's just removal. That's the name of the game against basically every deck right now, even Fiendsmith, right? Like, you remove the Lurie, you're good. That's what you're doing a lot of the time with just like Mirror Jade into Boral and stuff like that. Of course, so like it's really good in, you know, popping your own Albion. It's very good with your Cartesia plays too, because it's just 2 Dark Dragons, so it's very easy to make. Titanclad's very good for the grind game. You're usually sending this to get the Albaz going second, so you can help board break, or you can summon the Quem going first, right? So you can establish an even better end board. It's also great into like stuff like Dinomorphia and just for quick OTKs under Nib. So yeah, and then 2 Albion, self-explanatory. 1 Mirror Jade. Yeah, no, I do think, you know, Albion's the only 2 of. I've seen some builds even run 1. I think you need to run 2. This just comes up way too much and it kills your grind game only running 1. But 1 Mirror Jade might be like, oh, why can you only do 1 Mirror Jade? Because of course, like, sometimes you like to ram a Mirror Jade going second, then summon the second Mirror Jade. I think you can be like very careful, and I'm running the Boral, so like I already have a pseudo Mirror Jade, and I also have the Guardian Chimera, so I have a lot of removal that I already get off of the second Mirror Jade essentially, and you know, I could run more diverse options for that reason. I don't want 2 Mirror Jade over no Boral, because then I can't rotate. That means once my Stapelia and Mirror Jade's gone, like, right, like I'm not doing a whole lot, and I don't have anything to remove spells and traps. And I think, like, right, Lad was one of your spell and trap removals, so without Lad I need something for that I can make off a Mirror Jade or Branded Fusion or like Cartesia besides Chaos Star Source, because Chaos Star Source is a one-time use and Guardian Chimera is only off a red. So, and some people might be like, you're only running 1 red, why Chimera? I just, once again, like, this was a second Jade. I just like having the toolbox option. It's also a good draw, so it's not bad, like, in the grind game once again. And then Mirror Jade's just still the best boss monster in the game, so yeah. And also look at my Royal Rare Branded Fusion, guys. I know I didn't even mention this, but I did pull this very luckily. Building my second Branded Fusion off of the preparing for the ban list, and they gave me a Royal Rare, so thank you, Konami, for listening. And then 1 Alba Lenatus. I was not running this, but this card makes it so if you brick going second against like Blue Eyes and have an Albaz in hand, you still have a damn good shot of beating them. Especially if you just like pretend you brick or something like that and go Lenatus, take out their whole board. And sometimes they can't set Majesty because they had to set it off of their combo already. They had to set the prayers or whatever. So like yeah, this card's just like way too good. It's also great once again against Alba or the Branded Mirror match, because they end on a lot of dragons. So it's a good way to clear their bodies to go for OTK, like I showed in some gameplay. 1 Guignol, I wish I could run 2, but that's just the grind game, and we were only running 1 target in Quem, so there's not really too much to make off of this. A lot of the time you'll make this, and then hopefully summon the Quem off of it to play through, like, interruptions. And then 1 Rinbrum, your best send off a Mirror Jade, so that you always want like an Albaz in rotation, so that you can go Mirror Jade banish, and then Rinbrum's just additional interruption. This is great also into a Rise Heart. I always make this against a Rise Heart because it's mandatory, so this is like the goo against Kashtira. And then 1 Sanctifier. Speaking of goo against Kashtira, this is untargetable, so it's great against that deck. But also, I think it's your Maxi line. It's great for the grind game as well. Also, just like with Golden Sword Soul, you're just constantly making any of your fusions with it. And then 1 Chaos Star Source for this card's so good. I wish I could run 2 of it. I wish it popped if you use your opponent's monsters like in TCG, but sadly it does not. And then like the TCG, and then 1 Guardian Chimera. We talked about this. It's good, could be cut. 1 Verte. This is the reason why you play Master or Branded on Master Duel a lot of the time, because you can play through infinite hand traps with this card, right? We went over a gameplay the other day where a player played through 5 hand traps and still Verte, right? So there's a way to do that. All right, so that was the long explanation for the deck list, guys. Holy shit, let's get into the combos and get into the gameplay. Once again, leave a like down below. I would very much appreciate it. This is very informative video, in-depth on this deck list. Let's get right into it. All right, so here's the combo portion of the video. I'm going to show you guys what your 1-card Aluber looks like without Lad, and then how you can make it a bit better, because of course Lad makes your 1-card Aluber incredible, but a lot of the time you have more than just Aluber. And then I'm going to show you guys a combo through Max C to end on a lot, so I can show you kind of the mechanics of what this deck is trying to do. So this is your 1-card Aluber now. All you need is a discard. It does get a bit worse now without branded banishment. However, it is still just fine because we go Aluber, and then Aluber is going to get the Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is going to send the Bestial Lubellion plus the Fallen of Albaz. And then that's going to make out the Albion the Branded Dragon. Albion the Branded Dragon can then banish the Aluber plus the Albaz from the graveyard to make the Lubellion the Searing Dragon. Searing Dragon is going to discard your 1 discard and spin back the Lubellion plus itself to make the Mirror Jade, and then we are going to tribute off the Albion the Branded Dragon to then put out the Lubellion. And this is where we could be running Branded Regained, and an earlier version of this build was running that, but because then we could banish the Lubellion, send Titan-Clad, get a draw as well, but Loss is going to be here for follow-up, and then here we could get the Albion effect in the end phase. This largely depends on what the rest of your hand is, because if you were able to discard off the Lubellion and Albaz into the graveyard, your hand is your board gets in 50% better. So let's just say there's an Albaz in graveyard, because then you could go Albion, set the Branded in red. Here I send Branded Retribution. If you only have a Luber, this is what you set. But if you have the Albaz, you are going to then set the Branded in red, and then you are going to be able to go Mirror Jade, banish a card, send Rinbrum. If you have another discard, then you can go Rinbrum, summon Albaz, fuse off your opponent's board, and then you also have the Loss to then search a Mercurier. So you still have a lot of interruption between the 1 Mirror Jade banish, the removal from Albaz, then whatever your Albaz makes, which is the Chaos Star Source, plus the Mercurier off the Lost. This is just your 1 card without just the one without an Albaz in rotation. But if you do have an Albaz in rotation, let's just say Shrouded Dragon or anything else, which you most likely probably do, your combo is 50% better, but this is what you're going to end on. If you don't, of course, this is better with Lad, but most of the time you will have that Albaz, and you don't want to just lose to Super Poly, and this board does not lose to Super Poly, and you probably have like a Droplet or a Super Poly yourself to back this up even if you don't have the Albaz in rotation. Let's check out this other combo. All right, so this is the more exciting combo, of course. This is going to be the Albaz. This is going to be Aluber plus Branded High Spirits plus any Dark Dragon. So here we go, normal summon Aluber. Aluber is going to, if it doesn't get impermed, you search obviously the Branded High Spirits, and then Branded High Spirits here is going to be able to pitch the Albaz, send the Albion, because we're trying to play through Maxi or Ash Blossom. This is Master Duel. We will search the Cartesia, because of course we will then have an Albaz in the graveyard. At this point, our opponent is going to, or we're going to go Branded Fusion to bait the Maxi. They Maxi us here on the Branded Fusion, and because of that, we will send the Golden Sword Soul and the Fallen of Albaz to the graveyard to make the Sanctifier. And here we can just end our turn and use the Albion in the graveyard to then set Branded in red to the field, which is super important. We won't even special summon out that Cartesia unless we're under Fua. If we're under Fua, then I could probably do that, but even then you don't even want to risk the Maxi. And then we pass to our opponent. We let our opponent play the game. You ideally want them to go normal summon, something you can fuse off with Albaz. But here we are going to summon out Albaz and the Golden Sword Soul out of our graveyard, and then go Albaz effect, fuse off the Golden Sword Soul while discarding the Cartesia, because that will be coming back, and the Golden Sword Soul to make the Albion. Albion's going to banish out of the graveyard the other Albion and the Albaz. We don't even need a discard for this. And then we can make the Mirror Jade, which is going to be some additional interruptions, because then we can banish the Golden Sword Soul since something was banished face up, and we can then summon out the Cartesia. We can go Mirror Jade banish, send the follow-up off the Alba Lunatus to search another Branded Fusion, and then we can also go Cartesia effect, fuse off the Albion plus the Mirror Jade for Stapelia and even more follow-up. And then once the Stapelia has been used, we can then use the Branded Red that we searched off the Albion, fuse off the Aluber, the Albaz in hand, and the Stapelia to make a Guardian Chimera. If you have a discard, you could always just make Lubellion the Searing Dragon to make the Chaos Star Source, but the Guardian Chimera does give us a draw plus 2 pops, and that was off of giving 1 draw under Maxi, and this just kind of demonstrates how strong Golden Sword Soul is, of course. And so the last combo is going to be showing you guys how good Verte Anaconda is. So Verte Anaconda is something that you just need to know how to use in Master Duel, so I just always have to show off this combo. So here we go Aluber. We need a Lubellion plus Aluber, and let's just say we get impermed on Aluber, so we won't be able to search. Okay, whatever. We now go Lubellion, so we can search out the Magnamut, and then we can banish the Lubellion off of the Magnum with the Magnamut, go Magnamut effect for a search in the end phase, and then link off the Magnamut plus the Aluber for the Predaplant Verte Anaconda. Your opponent cannot Ash Blossom this. They have to have another Imperm. So that's why it's good to get all the Imperms out of the way. And if they have Ash, they're going to be looking weird. You can then go Predaplant Verte, pay 2,000, send the Branded Fusion plus the Albaz plus the Predaplant itself to summon out the Mirror Jade, and then you go end phase, get the Saronir off of the Magnemite, so you have a discard. Obviously, if you have any other discard, you could just save the Saronir as an interruption, and then you pass to your opponent. And then once you let your opponent play the game, obviously you start letting it so you can start removing their bodies. That's a huge thing with Branded because most of your interruptions are removal, so just removing bodies at the ideal time before they link or synchro or activate their effects. That's the time to remove them. So we can go Mirror Jade, remove the Punk card that can activate its effect to search a card before it activates essentially. And then we can get the Rinbrum in rotation. And then we can activate the Rinbrum since there is an Albaz in the graveyard from the Verte to summon it. And then we can go Albaz effect, discard the Saronir or a different card once again if we want to save the Saronir as an interruption to then summon out Albion ideally. And then you can summon out Chaos Star Source because you have 2 different dragons in the graveyard. If you have more discards, you could even fuse back Mirror Jades, make another Mirror Jade if you want. And then the Saronir will send follow-up for the Branded Retribution, of course, and Chaos Star Source will provide some pops, and you will get the Branded Fusion back in the end phase. So you can crack back your opponent, and that's like 4 interruptions right under max C, or, if they impermed you, and they have no Ash opportunity either. So they're probably just, if they have a dead Ash in their hand, they're probably just losing the game on that with your 4 interruptions, and that's how you use Verte Anaconda in Master Duel. That's going to end my portion of the video, guys. We're going to check out some gameplay now. I hope you guys enjoy the raw gameplay. Very much go check it out if you want to see, how to play Branded at a high level and get Master yourself, because this is what you need to do to play Branded in a format with 2 Branded Fusion, but it's a still very, very tough format between the WCQ and all the stun decks out there. If you made it to the end of this video, let me know down below. Also, make sure you're subscribed. Once again, we're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. You can pick up my branded spreadsheet, and it has a bunch of other decks in it, and is updated every month with new combos for all the decks I play, including mostly branded. Check that out down below on my website. You can also pick up my Yu-Gi-Oh playmat and a bunch of other great merch and TCG accessories on there. Also, once again, click the join button to become a member today of the classroom, and you get a hold of my classroom where you get all my early deck lists, and you can get coaching help there. And also check out my Twitter, my Instagram, all the links down below if you want to help support me. Also, we have a great Discord community. Once again, check out the branded spreadsheet. Comment down below, and let's get this video to 200 likes. We will do another one of these next month. Thank you guys very much. I will see you guys later.